Welcome to Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, your guide to mastering the realm of real estate in Central East Florida. I am Sir Lancelot Leonard, ready to uncover the secrets of seller strategies, home staging, mortgage mastery, and more. From Daytona Beach to Cocoa Beach, Lake County to St. Augustine, join me as we navigate the intricacies of real estate. As the leader of the Sir Lancelot Group at Florida Homes Realty and Mortgage, I'm here to arm you with knowledge and innovation, whether you're a seasoned homeowner or a first-time buyer, unveiling the kingdom of real estate, one roundtable at a time. Welcome back to the Real Estate Roundtable. Today, we're diving into the art of mastering the investor mindset with someone who fully knows the game. Tyler Gibson started as a part-time realtor and climbed his way into the top 5% of agents in Orlando, a fiercely competitive market. Not only is Tyler an expert at working with real estate investors, but he's also a leader in leveraging house hacking strategies, faith, and grit to build a thriving business and inspire others. He's the host of Leads and Leverage podcast and a guiding voice for those navigating the crossroads of real estate and personal growth. Let's get ready to uncover the habits, mindset, and lessons that fuel his success. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, Tyler, let's start with your journey first. From part-time agent to a top 5% in Orlando. This is a remarkable achievement. Can you take us back to where it all started? What was the moment real estate was your calling?
So it's kind of a funny story, and it actually goes farther back from when I got licensed. So I moved a lot as a kid, and I noticed that my dad would buy a home when we moved somewhere, and then he would try to keep it as a rental property when we had to move away. And while we never had any conversations about why he was doing that or the benefits of buying real estate and or owning rental properties, I just saw a modeled behavior of owning rentals. And so after my wife and I had gotten married, which on our honeymoon, which we went with my family, like my parents, brothers and sisters.
Fun honeymoon.
Yeah. In hindsight, maybe not the best idea. And for the record, we did spend some time, just the two of us, after the family vacation. But it was also technically our honeymoon. So we were in the pool and we're talking about things. And at the time, I was working for a landscaping company doing irrigation repairs and maintenance. Which here in Central Florida is a very hot, sticky, sweaty, dirty job. And I didn't really like it. So I was talking about what else I could be doing. And I said, maybe I'll get a real estate license. And my wife looked at me and said, you'd be good at that. And I was saying it because my dad had started talking about investing in real estate. And I was like, well, we should flip houses. And he said, if you get a license, I'll flip houses with you. And I said, well, maybe I should do that. And my wife, you'd be good at that. But I had this limiting belief that I was a terrible student because I'm a college dropout. I'm a C, B average student in high school. I did fine, but I didn't do the homework, and I wrote my papers last minute, and so I was an okay student, but I think it was mostly because of my effort level more than anything else. But I had this limiting belief that I was a terrible student, and I didn't have time to go sit in a classroom, which I felt like was the best way for me to learn. And I couldn't learn online is what I thought. And so for 7 years, I just kept putting it off and saying I couldn't do it because I'm a bad student. I can't learn online. I don't have time to go learn in person. These are the stories I kept telling myself. So my wife and I got married. We bought a rental house because I saw this model behavior by my dad. I ended up getting a job working in corporate America. My wife had a stable salary job. We lived below our means, and we were investing the difference. And so we bought that first rental house. I got that first check for rent, and I was hooked. There's nothing better than mailbox money. And so to get $1,000 check in my mailbox, I ran inside. I was so excited. I looked at my wife and I go, we got $1,000 and we didn't do anything.
That's when
And
you realize passive income is a pretty good thing.
oh, game changer, right? And
Yeah.
my wife looked at me dead in the face and goes, "Well, our mortgage is 500, so we didn't make $1,000." You're killing my
Really?
buzz. I didn't say we made
Uh,
$1,000. I said we got $1,000.
yeah.
So, um, but I was hooked, and so I started to try to educate myself more on how do you start to build a portfolio of properties? How do you get more passive income? And one of the things I realized was that I had no clue what I was doing. I bought this property based off of hunches, assumptions. I thought it would rent for this much. I didn't even really know the math. And so I went looking for a calculator, a spreadsheet, analyzation tool, and that led me to biggerpockets.com just through Google. And
I,
biggerpockets.com, for people that don't know, world's largest real estate investor forum, number one real estate podcast in the world, tons and tons and tons of free knowledge. And so I got very, very involved in the platform. I started listening to all the podcasts, and I just, fell in love with real estate more and more. And at that point, I knew real estate was the thing. I just didn't know how it would be the thing, right? And so fast forward, we have some rentals. We partner with some family. We bought more rentals. We did some pretty big renovation projects. But the whole time I was living in corporate America, uh, I got a new when I became a father, or when I found out that I was going to be a father, which was a 5 year blessing or a 5 year blessing in the making. Right? It took us that long to try to have children. We tried right
wow.
away, and it just took a long time. So when I knew I was going to be a dad, it changed what I was doing at the time. Because at the time I worked for a software company as part of their implementation, product management, project management team. And I traveled like 26 weeks a year. And I knew that that was not going to be the home life that I wanted. So I immediately started looking for another job. And I got a new job. And all of a sudden I realized I didn't do as much work for this new company. I got paid more, but the demand on my time wasn't as high. So I had time during the day where I wasn't doing anything. And I looked at my wife again and I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to go ahead and get that real estate license because something has shifted in my mind, and I didn't want to trade time for money forever." And so my plan was get the license and just use it to buy my own properties and just try to buy more properties, keep my job because I liked my job. I was good at it. I worked with a great team, had great benefits. I didn't have a reason to necessarily to quit the job, but I was going to leverage that income to be able to build that portfolio. And so I went ahead and started working on the license. I actually did the bulk of my classwork at the hospital the week that my daughter was born because we had to induce, and so I was just sitting in a room. My wife and I were just sitting in a room waiting. So I was powering through the online course and ended up getting my license in October of 2019. And by this time, I already had investments and I had been very active on the forums. And so BiggerPockets sales team actually reached out to me and asked, offered me a free premium account on their platform. I don't think that exists anymore, but at the
No,
time,
they don't have free. It's like 600 and it was last time I signed up for it was like 650 or something.
yeah, yeah. So I, I, I said okay, and it was because they wanted to have more agents active on the platform, and I had updated my profile to be that I was a licensed agent. And so I started using that, and that gave me a little lead capture form on their website. But I had already been active on the forums, and you can actually set up keyword alerts so that you know when people are talking about or using a specific word in any post that they make. So I had set it up for the cities around my area, and I had already been interacting with people, but now I was doing it differently. I was answering their questions, and then I was making a connection request and sending them a message and soliciting business, telling them I'm an agent. I'd like to help you. I can help you. I'm also an investor. Let me know if there's anything you need, even if it's just a recommendation for a property manager. I mean, anything just to get them to ping me back. And that's actually how I found my first client in real estate sales. And so after that, they do have a paid lead generation program that we still participate in today. And so I started leveraging that and built automations that allowed me to quickly contact with those people, send them a link to my calendar, and then let them book time in my calendar. And I was able to sync that with my work calendar so that I was having phone calls and Zoom calls in between my work Zoom calls and work that had to be happening. Um, and I got licensed in October of 2019. January 2020, the world shut down.
Yeah.
Everybody went home. And so I was at home, working at home. My clients in my day job worked in the HR space. And, because of COVID, they were all worried about how do I get people a desk and a computer and a printer so they can work at home. They were not concerned with the product that I was managing for them. I was a customer success manager at the time. And so I didn't do a whole lot those first 3 months of 2020, except try to figure out how to sell homes, how to sell more homes. And so we just leaned heavily into that. And then also our investor lead generation strategy and just started plugging away. And we ended up doing 12 sales that first in 2020, or I said it was just me then. That first year was just me part-time. And I did 12 sales. Some family was a part of that. Some friends were a part of that. But for the most part, it was strangers, which is unique because a lot of real estate agents in their first year, they don't do a lot of stranger business. They do a lot of friends and family business. Even in the first 5 years, I would say most people focus on friends and family. And so it was very different for me. And then in 2021, I was still using BiggerPockets, and I had a national hedge fund flipper contact me through the platform. And that's really what shifted the whole thing for me. Because in 6 months, they did 12 transactions. And I was still part-time. That actually forced me to think about how can I do this better. So I told my wife I was going to quit. She said, no. Why? And I said, well, I don't have enough time. I need more time. I either got to quit or I got to hire or I got to pay a transaction coordinator. And I don't want to pay a transaction coordinator. Very foolish.
Yes, we learned that down the line. It's like, oh my God, we so need a transaction coordinator.
Thankfully, my wife goes, well, what does a transaction coordinator do? And so I tell her, and she goes, well, I could probably do that.
Do that.
And I'm like, okay. And so, to her credit, she went out and learned a lot about real estate and about real estate contracts and how to do things here in Florida. And she put together and built a great system to where I had all this extra time now. And so I was still getting busier and busier and busier. And I had read a book about having a real estate team, having people on your team that you give business to, and how that can create all this leverage in your business. And
I
so
see that book right there behind you.
yeah, well, it's actually not the red book that I'm talking about. But it's on that shelf too. And the red book is good, but it's just it tells you got to wait a long time before you do what I did. Yeah. So I just cut the corner. But I brought on an agent in 2021 in the summer, and I still had a full-time job. But I brought on an agent onto my team so that they could go and open doors for this hedge fund flipper because I couldn't oftentimes.
Just couldn't make it happen. Yeah.
I just couldn't make it happen. And I was having an overflow of business from the BiggerPockets leads that I was generating. And so and this agent had been an agent for 20 years.
Wow.
I had been an agent for 2. So to put somebody on your team that has that level of experience was huge. It was a game changer for me. I didn't have to teach them anything. I didn't have to show them anything. They could just run with it. And so that helped us to start to leverage. And then we started adding more team members. But 2021 was the year that I did $10 million in volume and cracked that top 5% here in the Orlando market. We've stayed right there. I don't think I'm in the 5% now if you count the numbers. We also have a lot less agents here in in Orlando now with everything that's changed from where we were in 2021. So, but that's kind of been the path. And then along the way, we've built some key business relationships with investors that are doing a lot of business, and so they bring me their listings, and we continue to help buyers, and we've started to help folks buy their first homes. We love helping house hackers, which I could talk about what that is if people don't know what that term is, but that's kind of the short and the long version. I mean, that's the long version of our journey. We started part-time and just, really focused on the side, trying to do things. And listen, the whole time I was full-time employed, I told every single person I talked to that I had a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay for part-time agents to do that. You should let them know what your situation looks like. I just told them, hey, look, I want you to know I do have a full-time job. So that means that if you call me and I don't answer, That might be because I'm in the middle of something else, but I will get back to you. Best thing to
Yeah.
do is text me. I can reply to a text very quick, usually wherever I'm at. So I always set that precedent. But the other thing that was really nice is I got to say this one line all the time. And I think it really helped me break the barrier with folks. Listen, I have a full-time job, so that means I don't need you to buy a house.
Oh yeah,
My
that helps.
bills, they're
Yeah.
paid for, my cost of living. I'm good. I do this because I love it.
It gives
And
you
I,
the
and I want to
confidence.
help people.
Gives you the confidence. A lot of agents that, let's say, I'm the opposite. It's like, okay, if you're gonna go and go full in, because now you're a full time agent, and that was my pitch. Is like, I'm a full time agent. You want to work with a 4-time agent or a part timer. So that was my pitch back in the day, five
Sure.
years ago, when I switched from being a part timer. And it's the same exact thing what you did, but a different leverage. And now
Yeah.
that I've reached that point in my career where, my God, I don't really need every sale. Like I can say no. In the beginning, it's like so hard to say no to everybody. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I just want every single deal that comes my way because I don't know what's going to happen next month.
Yep.
Is there a paycheck coming in or no? So when you get to that point of confidence that you don't really need every single deal, you can say no to people. That's when they
Yeah.
realize, oh my God, like he's not BS. Like if I want to work with him, I have to show my best face. I can't be,
Yep.
not a nice person with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially people with experience like yourself, or myself. Our experiences, they speak for themselves.
Yep.
And when you have that experience, they see that experience. It's like, okay, he's not a newbie. He knows what he's talking about. He's done this multiple times. So I could trust him with my biggest investment. In your
Yeah.
case, in finding the right property or closing on a deal,
Yeah.
negotiating the best deal, terms, etc. Correct?
Absolutely. Right. I think the biggest thing, and one of the biggest challenges for new agents that are getting into the business is they need that sale so bad.
Yeah.
And we call it commission breath, right?
Yeah.
It people can smell it,
You
right?
could smell it, yeah,
Right,
from a mile
you
away.
can smell the desperation in that because they need that money, and I feel that pain, and I don't want to be insensitive to people's financial situations. At the same time, y- if you are in that situation, you got to figure out how to present yourself and speak in such a way that you can have that indifference that is so important. And you can be indifferent to the outcome of your conversation.
Oh,
And
that's one of the best negotiation tactics too. Indifference. Like you are not partial to any home. Like, hey, you want this one or you want another one? I don't really care which one you really
yeah,
want, except for that I want you to have the best for yourself.
yep,
That's what I really care about. We could pick this one or that one or that one, And now I think it's gonna help us be indifferent that the commissions are not online and you can't see the commissions. So whatever you agree upon with your buyer is what you're going to get, except for, you might negotiate it down or up during the transactions. Like, hey, I know you can't afford, to pay me the extra half a point. They're only paying 2.5. I'll give you that. You can
yeah,
do that now, you
yep,
know, that's on you now. That's your decision now, which I think is phenomenal. Before it was like, well, they're paying 2% or 1% or 2.5 or 3 or whatever they were paying. And I know a lot of agents, it's not nice to say, but if they are in need of money, they'll they'll shift a little bit towards the higher paying
yeah,
job.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just the
Well,
way it's human nature. You can't stop human nature,
yeah,
in that fact.
and to that end, what's happening now in our industry, I think people need to be very cautious.
Yeah.
I have some listings and I get phone calls and text messages, and the agents are asking me, "Hey, what's the compensation?"
It's like
Well,
whatever you write on that contract, we'll negotiate it.
yeah, and when I reply to them that the seller's open to paying buyer's agent compensation, but you just need to submit it as part of your offer, people are like, wait, you're not offering anything? Well, that's no, I didn't say that they won't pay you. I said that you just need to submit your request as part of the offer.
Yeah.
And I've had some people say, oh, okay, well, never mind then. Uh, Agents, if you're listening, please be careful.
Yeah.
That
Is
is
steering.
steering, which
Yeah.
is what we were accused of doing as part of the lawsuit. They didn't prove it, but this is actually steering when you say this to another agent. Oh, well, then I'm not going to show it.
Yeah.
No, no, please show it. We don't even call and ask. It doesn't matter to me.
No, it doesn't matter. Look,
I
this
already
is
have
at
an
the
agreement.
exactly at the end of the day, I have an agreement with my buyer, and that's what counts. And I'll put it in the offer. I don't even ask if they're paying or not paying.
Just show the house.
I just shove it in the offer. This is
Just
what you're
show
going to
the
pay me, man.
house.
That's it.
That's right.
I'm bringing the buyer. If you don't want to pay me, then I'll figure it out with my buyer at the end of the day. That's between me and my buyer.
Right.
And I tell my buyers that straight up front. It's like, hey, I'm going to do my best to get paid on this transaction by the other side, so you don't have to come up with it. But in the case that we don't get that, just be prepared that you're going to have to pay me something for my work.
Or they can go pick another house.
Or you can go pick another house. Exactly.
Right.
If you can't afford it,
so,
don't buy
absolutely.
it. That's it.
Don't buy it. Yeah, listen. Hey, if it doesn't work for you financially, let's go find another one. Let's go find a seller that will do what it is that you need to do in order to make your situation work. Right.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I think that's really, really critical. And but for agents to be able to develop that indifference and have that, and it is hard when you ride a commission roller coaster. I get it. I some days it's hard even when you run a team, right? But if you can maintain that indifference, it'll put you in a better position, and it'll elevate you in the eyes of the consumer. And we tell people that we don't work with everybody. I'm not going to be a good fit for everybody. And I've fired clients before. There is nothing more freeing than telling somebody, hey,
you are just way too much time for me.
I can't work with you anymore.
Yeah.
This isn't working.
I usually watch Ricky Caruth a lot. He has the solution for all these questions. Just go out and do more business. That's the solution, for your, I don't know what kind of checks come in the next month. Just go out and bang the doors until you get deals. That's the solution for getting the indifference. Because once you have a pipeline of, 2, 3, 4, 5 deals constantly, rotating, you won't have that feeling of, oh my God, what's going to happen next month? Can I pay my bills? Or another way is have a nest egg. Always have a nest egg to fall back to if something doesn't pan out the way it's supposed to. So going back to the next question, working with investors can be really daunting for many agents. How did you become so adept to navigating the investor mindset? And what advice would you give to an agent wanting to break into the niche?
So first and foremost, if you want to break into the investor niche, I think you can automatically gain trust and confidence with investor clients if you have your own investments. Okay. But it's not a requirement. It's not a prerequisite to be able to work with investors. The prerequisite to work with investors is knowing the language, right? Consumers that are buying their first home don't talk about ROI, cap rate, cash on cash return. They don't even know what the term cash flow means, right? I mean, maybe they do, but they're certainly not going to use it. When you talk to an investor, these are oftentimes terms that you're going to come across. And if you don't understand what they mean, or you use it incorrectly, you're going to be immediately put to the back of the line, because you better believe that they're probably talking to 3 or 4 different agents in your market. They're trying to find somebody that understands what it is they're trying to do and can help them facilitate that. That's all it is, right? When you work with an investor, understanding what it is that they're trying to do, and then being a conduit to facilitate that goal and being a part of that team. I mean, a lot of investors talk about building their team in a market. The team isn't just you. The team is the real estate agent, the property manager, the contractor, the financing person. Who knows? A plumber, electrician. I mean, who knows who and they need that from the agent in most cases. The agent in most cases is going to be the person that brings the rest of the team to that investor. And so the number one piece of advice I would tell somebody who wants to break into the niche is educate yourself on investing. Go to biggerpockets.com, start listening to the podcast.
I know. I love that. That's where I got my first fourplex. Not through them, but that's how I got into the mindset of investing. I'm like, oh my
Exactly.
God, this is an amazing platform. There's so much wealth of knowledge in here. And watching their podcast is one after the other and the other and the other. Just going to the bar, working on my way, walking to the bar, where I was working as a bartender, listening to their podcasts every day got me into the mindset of, oh my God. And the lingo is there. The lingo's there. So you get to learn the lingo while you're listening to their podcast. So it comes out pretty good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Instead of listening to the radio when you're driving
Yeah.
from one
Put a
appointment to the
podcast on.
next,
Boom.
put on a podcast or
Yeah.
an audiobook,
Yeah.
something, right? But it was that intentionality early on in my career to where I was, I just listened to everything nonstop. I think they already had like 150 episodes when I had started listening. I think now they're over like 400.
But they're like
Uh,
really there. Yeah.
but
Brandon left. I used to listen to Brandon a lot. Beardy
uh,
Brandon.
yeah, Brandon. So first it was Josh and Brandon, and then it was Brandon and David Green, and then it was David Green and Rob something or other, and now it's Dave Meyer.
Wow. So they totally
So
like
yeah,
the
Dave,
old
yeah,
old
yeah.
team is out.
Yeah,
They
it's
all
all
went on their
changed
own
now,
paths,
right?
probably.
But the early years, right? Now there are some things that I'll tell people if you're listening to it. They talk a lot about the 1% rule and some other stuff like that that doesn't really exist anymore.
No.
The way that they talk about investing at that time, how you run your numbers and everything.
Advice is to don't start the first episode because the first episode doesn't really apply to what's going on in the market
Sure.
right now. I would start maybe 10, 20 episodes back when they're talking about stuff that's actually current,
Or
if you're going to do that.
yeah, or check out the Real Estate Rookie podcast. They started that a couple years ago, but it's designed for people that are looking for an intro into real estate investing, and they
Yeah.
can listen to it and just learn what those knowledges mean. I mean, or in the world of AI, go ask AI what are the
Yeah.
primary real estate investing terms that I need to know, and what do they mean,
Yeah.
right? And just
Exactly.
understand the language. But if you do that, then you can do it. And the other thing that I would tell somebody that wants to break into the niche, make a profile on biggerpockets.com.
Yeah.
Fill it out
And just
completely.
start talking to
and
people there.
Start talking to people on the platform. And in fact, if people want to, I will spend one-on-one time with somebody, or if I get enough people, I'll do a webinar and I'll show you exactly what I do, how to set up the keywords, and how to reach out to people and interact with them on the forums that will generate you business. I spend thousands and thousands of dollars with BiggerPockets now for their paid leads, but I have made plenty of money through free organic interactions and client acquisition, and I can teach people how to do it. It's really not hard. It takes time, right? But in this business, when you're trying to generate business for yourself, it's going to cost you something, right? It's either going to cost you time to cold call or
Or
door
money.
knock or
Yeah.
do open houses or circle prospect or whatever, or write letters or whatever you're going to do. It's going to cost you time, or it's going to cost you money.
Exactly.
Right?
It's either marketing based or prospecting based. These are the two options you got going on for
You're
getting.
going to spend something. Your
The
time
name
or
of the
your
game
money.
is leads, 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 leads. That's the name of
Yep.
the game. The more leads come through, the more chances you get to close the deal
Yep.
as an agent. Another thing that you were really you spoke really well about is gather your team. You have to be the mayor of this. So when somebody comes to you, you're the mayor. You're the guy that knows the guy that knows the guy that's the guy. That's the
Yep.
person you want to be. So you are indispensable in terms of I know everybody.
Yep.
I have one for anything. You want your car tires changed? I got a guy for that too. You got your dog walked? I have a guy for that. You need a window changed? I got a guy for that. You're the guy that has a guy for everything.
Yep.
That's the whole name of the game.
And for agents that are thinking, yeah, but I don't have a guy. I don't know a property
Go out and
manager.
find
I
him.
don't know a contractor. I don't know. Okay, but you probably do.
Yeah, you probably do. You just haven't,
Even if you
followed
don't,
up.
you can probably find a highly reputable and recommended person relatively quickly. Now, let me tell you how. We all have these really cool smartphones, right? And many of us are in different Facebook groups, local Facebook groups. Many of us are in real estate specific Facebook groups. Here in Orlando, there's one for the top 500 agents. There's also Orlando Real Estate Mastermind. And oftentimes they're full of other real estate agents in your marketplace, right? So I prefer to go to the top 500 group because I know that those people are doing lots of business. And I say, hey, I got somebody that really needs a paver guy in Winter Park. Who do you know that you would recommend to do pavers in Winter Park? Now I'm asking the top agents in my marketplace. Everybody is happy to recommend their guy, right? Why do they do that? Because they're friends with that guy. They want to help that guy make more money. So they're going to refer them to me. Now, if I can take a referral from an agent that sells $50 million a year and happily give it to another client of mine and say, hey, this person came highly recommended from another professional in my marketplace. Do I know that person? No. But I'm still able to generate that referral for them or for my client, get them the resource that they need. So even if you don't know everybody right now, you could very easily help them get connected with somebody that's highly reputable. All you got to do is be around the right people and ask the right questions.
Another suggestion would be is once you get that referral, you call that person too and say, hey, I'm shooting your way. One of my clients, I'm shooting him your way. If anytime I need someone else for some other jobs, is it okay if I call you? And that paper guy probably knows a landscaper, and then the landscaper probably knows one other guy, and usually if you find one good pocket of people that do these jobs, they know good people.
Yep.
So you're not going to fall into the trap of, oh my God, this is the guy that butchered the house. No, you're probably going to be one better guy than the other one because they move around in the same circles.
Yeah, and I'll give you a pro hack. Find a great property manager.
Oh yeah, they know everything
in your local market. Become friends with that person, right? Because then that's a single source. Every property manager has a handyman, a plumber, an electrician, a floor guy, a painter. They have somebody that would do all of that stuff. They have those relationships already. I have a great relationship with a local property manager. And when I have somebody, like somebody the other day said, hey, I need a roof patch in Kissimmee. Well, I know roofers, but there's none that I love. So I contacted a property manager friend of mine and go, hey, I know that you manage short-term rentals and long-term rentals here in Central Florida. Who would you recommend to do a roof patch in Kissimmee? Oh, hold on, let me send you somebody, right? And so I get by associate, but that property manager can be the single source for all of your needs when it comes to service people. So that would be the super quick way to hack into somebody else's network. Find a good property manager. Tell them, hey, I'm trying to focus on real estate investors, um, or just send them business, right? And that is actually one of the best ways to generate those free business. Tell people on the forums when you're reaching out to them, I actually know a great local property manager and I'd be happy to get you connected, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? Property managers pay referrals.
They do.
I've gotten paid $1,000 just for connecting this person that I don't know at all with this person that I do. This person had a house they needed management on.
Yeah.
I didn't sell them the house, but they're actively looking for a recommendation. I have somebody that does a good job. I can get them connected and I can make a little bit of money. And now I've started to build a relationship with that person. And my property manager, because we're friends, he's going to put my name next to them in his database. So if that person ever comes back and goes, hey, I'm thinking about selling, he's going to go, oh, okay. Well, you should talk to Tyler.
Yeah.
Right. And they bring him back to you. So, that would be
it's a really good property manager.
Yeah. So, I mean, get active on the forums, educate yourself, start building your network, and just add value to people.
For sure. For sure. So house hacking is a game changer, my friend, for new investors, for sure. What's your best advice for someone looking to get started with this strategy?
Start young. And I people, if I could give my younger self advice, it would be buy early, buy often, and house hack, because it's one of the most effective ways to start building a real estate portfolio with little to no money, right? It's not a no money strategy. Okay. I'm not a guru telling you you can make $1 million with none of your own money. It is a tried and true method of becoming a homeowner and also building your wealth through real estate. And so if you're interested in doing that, the first thing you need to do is talk to an agent or talk to a lender, probably even a lender first, right? Because you need to understand what you could buy, or if you could buy. And if you're not in a position financially to be able to buy now, the right lender can at least tell you what you need to do to get ready, to get in that position,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you could start
And the
just
nice thing, if you house hack a multifamily unit, you can actually take, assuming any of the units are actually currently leased, right? You need to have one empty unit in order for this to work.
correct.
But let's say it's a quadplex, right? Because you bought a quadplex, right? So you find a quadplex, there's one vacant unit or a tenant that's month to month. The other tenants, their rent, you can use that as part of your qualification for the property. You could take 75% of the revenue that's being generated and it can be shown as income for your debt to income ratio qualification. So you can literally borrow future income to qualify for the property right now. You could buy that property with 3.5% down FHA or 0 down VA or 5% down conventional.
I mean, if you've done
Other
it a few
tenants,
times already, you could probably even get a 3% down conventional. I have done that before.
I don't know about
I'm not sure about
quads.
multifamily. Yeah,
Yeah,
but single family for sure.
for single family, yeah,
Yeah.
but for multifamily, 5% down on a conventional loan.
If you're gonna move into it, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Know?
Or if you have a VA entitlement because you were in the military, you can do 0 down on a quadplex, right? You can ask the buyer to, or the seller to contribute towards a closing cost. You can use that to buy down the rate or what have you. But there are ways that you could literally get into a home with little to no money out of pocket. And if you do it right, or if you're in a favorable market, you might generate enough rents to completely pay for the property.
Yeah.
So now you're living for free. You don't even pay rent. What are you going to do with all your extra income? Well, you should be stacking it, right? Put
Buy
it
the
in a
next
high
one.
yield savings account, start saving it. Because guess what? In a year, you can go do it again.
Yeah.
Actually, on December 7th in Winter Park, we have our local real estate investor meetup, and we're going to have a young man out here talking to us about house hacking. He bought townhomes. He would buy a townhome, rent out all the other bedrooms to roommates, essentially, and then he moved, rented out his bedroom, and bought another townhouse. Rented out the bedrooms, lived there for a year, and he's actually under contract on his third property. I think he's 26 years old. He's going to own 3 pieces of real estate. But by the time he's 20, before he's 30, how many people get to say that, right?
That is awesome.
He doesn't come from money. He focused, he saved, and he used this strategy to be able to become a homeowner and then a real estate investor. And I would venture to say that anybody that owns a home is a real estate investor. They may not know it. They may not think about it that way, but your home is an investment. It is going to grow in value over time. And if you're diligent to pay down the loan, then you'll be sitting on a really nice nest egg. The smart people, they move, keep that house and turn it into a rental because it's the gift that'll keep on giving.
Correct. Correct. So this is awesome. Thank you for all that info. I think that's a great way to get into real estate. You often speak about the role of faith in your life. How was faith influenced your journey in real estate? How did it do that? And both personally and professionally, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know that you can do this business without having some sort of faith, because sometimes it's a nail biter. Um, but I grew up moving around a lot because my father was a missionary. So we lived in Mexico. I speak Spanish as a result, and
That is awesome in your market.
yeah, it's proven to be helpful here in Central Florida as well. But it gave me purpose. It centered my life. I mean, I've not always followed my faith, but in Thanksgiving of 2005, no, 2010, I had a reawakening, and it changed the trajectory of my life. At the time, I was a snowboard instructor in Colorado, and I lived very poor. I didn't have two pennies to my name, but it from that point, it took me to Spain, it took me to Seattle, and eventually it brought me back here. But focusing on my faith has been huge. And I actually got fired from my landscape irrigation job the year, shortly after my wife and I got married. And for a lot of people, that would have been the worst day of your life. And I was so incredibly relieved. I hated that job. I wanted to do anything else, but I also was married and had to be responsible. And so I was doing it because it was a decent pay, and I had health insurance from it. But when my boss told me, oh, I didn't get fired, he laid me off. He said, I don't have enough business to keep paying you. And you're a great worker. I'll give you a great recommendation, but I got to let you go. And I was so relieved. Oh, I felt I was so, I wasn't looking forward to the conversation I needed to have with my wife, but inside I was relieved. And I just continued to believe that God was going to show up. Whatever was next, God was going to show up. And he did. He showed up in the way of, people giving me some odd jobs. And then somebody that was going to church with me one day said, hey, so what do you know about computers? And I said, I don't know, as much as the next guy, I guess. I don't know. It turns out knowing how to install software or hardware into a PC is a lot more than the next guy knows.
So, wow, really?
Evidently. But I didn't know that at the time, right? You don't know what you don't know. And that took me to the software job where I was traveling a lot. Actually, that software job was tied to real estate. We sold land records management systems. So deeds, mortgages, marriage licenses, all that gets recorded with your local county government. That government uses a recording software to take those documents in, scan them, index them, assign them a number, make them an official document, and then make them publicly searchable online. Well, our product did that. We sold a product to county governments that did the whole process. But in the meantime, I learned about real estate. I learned about title. I learned about the importance of public records and official records and all of that stuff. And so, that was just God showing up and then giving me that next job, and then not, and then again, the inspiration to going to get my real estate license, to BiggerPockets offering me a free premium membership. I mean, all of these things I see them as God's thumbprint on every single one of them in my life. And I don't take it for granted. And it's now central to what I do. I control my schedule. The focus of my business has always been my family. And so I don't miss school recitals and things of that nature. I'm there, and I just schedule all of my work around what I have said is my priority, which is my faith and my family. And anybody can do that. But you have to be super intentional with it and use tools like calendars and then do what's on your calendar, right?
Sure. Tony says once it's in your calendar, it's going to happen. When you think
right.
about it, it's a thought. When you write it down, it's in motion. But once you stick it in your calendar, that's a fact, Jack. It's going to happen.
That's right. Absolutely. And I tell people, if it's not on my calendar, it won't happen.
It won't happen. That's what I told my wife. Is like, hey, babe, if you're planning on a weekend outing or something, you better tell me and let me put it in my calendar. Because if it's not in my calendar, I'm doing probably something else that weekend.
Yeah, it doesn't. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, that's been what it is. And today I pray for my clients. In all of our team meetings, we end it with does anybody have any prayer requests? And I spend time each day praying for the people on my team by name, because I believe in the power of prayer. I've seen how it changed my own life. And now, my goal is to make as much money as I possibly can, not because I want stuff or things, but so I can give it away. So that I can give that money to organizations and projects that are working to improve the lives of other people throughout the world and here in Central Florida. So I'm super excited. I get to give 10% of every dollar I make away. And that gets me, I tell people I love tithing, and they look at me a little bit weird. Um, but if I'm tithing, it means I'm making money. It means
Yeah.
I got a check. So I love it. It's my favorite thing to do. And we, you know, just want to have the greatest impact in people's lives that we possibly can. And so our mission statement is we're just here to help people, buyers, sellers, and agents.
Awesome. That is a great mission statement. By the way, if you haven't heard yet, I do have a charity.
Oh, very cool.
I do have a charity. If I want C3, it's Sir Lancelot's Table Inc. We have a orphanage in Uganda that we help out every month. And I'm working on smaller projects in and around our area as well. We'll talk about it later. If you're interested in anything, maybe you could hop on and help us out, because not by money, but by any other means, we're
Sure.
always looking to find some more people that can contribute in ways. It's hard. It's hard to run a charity. I'll tell you that. I didn't think it was going to be as hard, but it's not easy. It's different when you're asking people for hey, donations or help, and they're like, what do I get for that? Like that's most of the time that's the answer.
Sure.
You get to feel good. That's what you get to feel. Like, that's what you
Oh, and
get.
if you give me money, I'll give you a tax receipt.
Yeah, I give you a tax receipt. You can write it up. Oh, that's awesome. So, what's one habit or mindset shift that you believe is essential for you know anyone aiming to succeed in a competitive market like
So the first thing that I would tell people is don't get stuck. You have to constantly be growing, constantly be feeding your brain. There's a great book that I'm almost done with called "What to Say When You Talk to Yourself" by a PhD, Shad Helmstetter, and it's a book about neuroscience and psychology and all these other things. But the basic premise is that what we say to ourselves is true. Think about that. What we say to ourselves is true. So when I had that limiting belief, I'm a terrible student, I told myself all the time, I'm a terrible student. I had this thought. I said it to myself. Well, guess what? It's true. As long as I continue to say it, it is true. And there's neuroscience that shows that what we say to ourselves is our reality. Well, guess what? We get to control what we say. We can have some input in that. Our brains are supercomputers that run off of programming. That programming is our self-talk, what we say about ourselves and to ourselves. And we can literally change it simply by listening to the right words. Call them affirmations or whatever you want, but by giving ourselves the right programming, we can change our lives. And so that one growth hack that I would give somebody is stop and think about what you're saying to yourself about yourself. Start reading some books. And if you have a limiting belief about yourself, it's just that. It's a limiting belief. It doesn't have to be true. We all have the capacity to change our lives. All you have to do is decide and then take consistent action to reach that goal, even if it's small, but be consistent. Another great book, Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yep.
Every decision that we make has a consequence. Sometimes that consequence is immediate. Sometimes that consequence is delayed. And the difference between good and bad habits is that bad habits have instant gratification, long-term consequences. Good habits have short-term pain, long-term benefit, right? You think about eating a cupcake. It tastes delicious right now, but if I eat a cupcake every day, I'm going to be very obese, possibly diabetic, a little ways down the road.
Yeah.
If I don't eat that cupcake, I'm not going to get the benefit of it. But if I could stay consistent in not eating sweets, I'm going to lose weight over time, right? But it's that trade-off that we oftentimes struggle with. I'd rather feel good now than get what I want later. Correct. As opposed to I don't want to be in pain right now, but eventually get to what I want later. And I think that's where a lot of folks struggle is they're not willing to do what others won't now so that they can live the lifestyle that others can't later.
Love that. That is amazing. It's a great advice, guys. Just focus, be disciplined, and you'll get where you need to be by, sheer persistence,
It's consistency. It's
Yeah.
just showing up every day, and doing it regardless of what your level of motivation is, right? My commitment doesn't require motivation
No.
because I'm gonna show up whether I feel like it or not. And there are plenty of days when I don't feel like it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's the gym too. The same thing, guys. Gym, you'll feel the pain every day when you start working out, and you'll see the results later down the road. It's not a 1 day trip; it's a journey.
That's right.
That's the thing about it. So your podcast, Leads and Leverage, is packed with insights. What inspired you to start it, and how does it tie you into your vision for helping others?
Yeah. So when I started my team, there was like hardly, I couldn't find anything that could help me figure out what splits to give, what should my culture look like, should I provide leads or just do training? Like there's just none of that information out there, and I couldn't find resources to help me get prepared. And so as I thought about starting a podcast and who I wanted to talk to, one of my goals is to help agents that might be like me, where they're not just wanting to sell houses, they're wanting to build a business. And there's the difference between being self-employed and owning a business. And again, this comes from a book, Robert Kiyosaki. If you know who that is, he wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a phenomenal book. Great starting point for anybody that wants to understand assets and building wealth. But he wrote a secondary book called The Cash Flow Quadrant. I've not read it, but I understand the principle, right?
I have.
Okay. Somebody told me that it's really hard to get through. But I understand the principles of it, right? And so when you have a job, you're an employee and you trade your time for money. When you become self-employed, you're still trading time for money. You're just doing it for more money. Typically, you get paid more for your time, right? Owning a business is when you make money and you're not necessarily trading time for it, right? So you don't
Working
show up
on your
someday
business instead of in your business.
That's right. And then being an investor, that's kind of the final thing, and that's where your money makes money, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to start a business. I wanted to have something that would work even when I'm not. And as a real estate agent, a solo entrepreneur, that's not possible. Because if I don't show up, I don't make money.
Exactly.
If I'm not showing a house, listing a house, I'm unemployed.
Tyler, most agents are stuck in that second quadrant.
Absolutely.
That's where most agents are.
And many of them will want to do that forever, and that's okay. But I wanted to run a business. I wanted to be able to go on vacation and still have things cooking at home. And so that's why I decided to build a team and move into that space. And so I started the podcast so that I could have some resources for other agents that might be looking to transition into a team model or owning their own brokerage or what have you. And then selfishly, I wanted the ability to learn from other team leaders of what they were doing, what's working, what's not working, what mistakes did they make, what can I avoid, right? Anytime you get an opportunity to sit in a room or talk to somebody that is ahead of you in terms of where you want to go, where you see yourself going, there's value in that. And so that's why we started the podcast, to be able to connect with other team leaders and real estate investors from around the country and to learn what are they doing that's working. How did they build their team? How do they structure their organization? And try to learn from them and then be able to provide that to everyone else that has an interest or that's looking for to figure out how to get more leads or how to create more leverage.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great reason to start to educate. I mean, that's a great thing. That's what I'm trying to do here too. But meeting people like yourself and others to show people there's other opportunities out there, other ways of doing this business.
Yep.
What's one piece of advice you'd give someone considering their first real estate investment in today's market?
What's one piece of advice that I would give someone that's doing what?
first real estate investment in today's market?
Uh,
Because it's a tough one. This market is finicky. It's a bit finicky.
So
House hacking, would that be a good way to go? Or
so without knowing what their goal is, my one piece of advice for any real estate investor is to not forget that father time is your best friend. When it comes to investing in real estate, time is your best friend. And so get started as soon as you can. And when is that, right? When should I buy my first house? When should I buy my first investment? When you can.
when you can. Just get into it.
When you can afford to buy your first home or afford to house hack, you should. Don't try to time the market. You can never time the market. I heard this the other day. Time in the market is always better than timing the market.
It's a good one.
Time in the market is always better than timing the market, because time is your best friend as it pertains to real estate. In a 10-year period, it almost always doubles in value. And so get started as soon as you can. Don't be afraid of that risk. Mitigate as much as you possibly can. But if you can afford it, buy it. A lot of duplexes and long-term rentals here in Central Florida don't cash flow from day one. For some investors, that's not okay because they can't afford it. For somebody that can afford to take a small loss on a spreadsheet for a couple of years, it could be well worth it, especially if you're trying to harvest some tax benefits. So, my one piece of advice is time's your best friend. Get started as soon as you can, as long as you can afford it.
Awesome.
And let time, do the rest.
Thank you, Tyler, for that. And thank you for coming on the pod. Listeners, make sure to follow Tyler on his socials, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube for more incredible insights. Don't miss his podcast, Leads and Leverage, where he dives even deeper into strategies that make real estate agents thrive. All links will be in the show notes. Tyler, thank you again for coming on the pod. It was amazing. You're an amazing person. Thank you for helping everybody. And you have anything else you would like to say?
Thanks. It's not every day that you get to be interviewed by a knight, Sir Lancelot. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tyler. Thank you for joining us on Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, where we've unveiled the mysteries of real estate together. Remember, in this kingdom of possibilities, every dream home is just a discussion away. I can help your real estate dreams come true. Just call me at 786-449-7518. Until our next roundtable, may your ventures be prosperous and your homes be filled with love and joy. Farewell, fellow knights of real estate.